The truth of the matter is, it doesn't need to be an amputation experience. There is a glide path, and there is a way to get there where you're bringing everyone. Everyone is kind of needs to come on board, and there needs to be an orientation and an understanding of why, where, and how. And I think, and you could disagree with me, but I think it's a problem that many brokers and advisors, and I'll say that throw me in there with everyone else, we tend to be focused on the next 12 months. And you can't be focused on the next 12 months. It's got to be, what does this thing look like in the next 60 months? What does it look like in the next 120 months? And I think if people start changing that dynamic and stop thinking about the quote unquote spreadsheet approach to open enrollment, start having these conversations earlier in the year, so that if this is a strategy that makes sense and they're going to start moving towards better healthcare, let's not even pigeonhole it into any one particular strategy, but just say, okay, if we're going to dream up a health plan that is the best health care, what does that look like? I think the sooner folks have a handle on what that can realistically look like, and then getting there in terms of, okay, to your point, like, you don't want it to be a painful experience. How can you soften the blow? How can you cushion this so that it's a smoother transition? I think, it's the temptation is to show people, like, okay, here's how we're better now. And even in our analysis, we go out 5 and 10 years now. But, that didn't happen all at once. Like, it took us a while to figure that out and to say, well, we need to show them what the big picture looks like, because no one is going to want to rip the Band-Aid off and cause pain for a quick hit and savings over the course of a year. But when you zoom out, and now all of a sudden, on a $2 million spend, you can save $8-10 million over the course of 10 years, that's significant. And what can you do to repurpose that money? What is the member experience going to be like? Maybe it's a little disruptive in the first 12 months, but, well, now we're one of the most desirable places in town to work at. And the people that we do have don't want to go anywhere, right? So I don't know if you're guilty of it, as I am, but I often don't take the opportunity to have those conversations. And I think I know I'm much better at it today than I've been, in time. But I think that's a big missing piece, going from and evolving as a broker from a transactional type of a broker to a broker that really is more about building value. And I think that's a chasm that we're going to start to see more and more brokers making that leap.
I agree with you completely. And I think a way to summarize everything that you said and what's been going through my mind too is, when it comes to healthcare, people aren't happy unless they're unhappy. And what I mean by that is, if you ask your average Joe, they like their health insurance, they're probably going to tell you no. They think they hate it. Whoever the insurance carrier is, they hate it for whatever reason because they screwed something up once. And by the way, I pay way too much for it. Okay. Well, let's go to solve that problem then. And we can't keep doing what we've been doing and expect a different result, right? So we've got to have to go about this a different way. And so when we go about things a different way, we're fighting against an uphill battle or swimming upstream against a machine that's built to extract as much money out of the plan that just had. So of course there's going to be some resistance or friction. And now people are bent out of shape about that. But they forget about why we went on this journey together, that it's a long-term journey. And oh, by the way, your health insurance hasn't gone up in 3 or 4 years, or the costs have gone down and you have less out of pocket now because we've been willing to do these things. We need to continually reinforce to the members why we're doing what we're doing and why this is good for them, but also need to reinforce to our customers that went on this journey with us, because from a CFO perspective, again, we're having a conversation now, we can implement a strategy, they can quantify the value of it, and they're on to the next hill they got to climb. And so when someone starts complaining and hating their health insurance 6 months later, it's hard to remember again how much this was worth and why they went on this journey. And the same could be said from an HR perspective. So,
Right.
I think that's the biggest challenge that we have, is that there is no magic wand, that, we're going to have to behave differently or do things differently to achieve a different outcome. And that's going to mean there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way, but we're already feeling those bumps and bruises. And so we need to keep the right mindset as we go on this journey together.
Yeah, no doubt. And I feel like the role of an advisor, if done properly, at least if I'm looking at the future, I see advisors being more than simply healthcare consultants, for lack of a better term. I think, again, you have to zoom out a little bit. And I think ideally, not that the advisor per se is going to be the boots on the ground having the conversations, but I had a conversation with another mastermind partner, and we were talking about just the opportunity to touch employees during open enrollment. If you're having meetings, how often do you see brokers just kind of go through just the typical BS? Here's your copay if you see a primary care doctor. Here's your copay if you see a specialist. Here's your deductible. And everybody's talking about the mechanics and the nuts and bolts. No one is talking about their health, though, and what they could do to take better care of themselves. So I think we're going to start to see more plans that have an integrated approach, and it might not just be during open enrollment, it might be throughout the year, but just coaching employees on how to take better care of themselves. And look, this is America. I'm a freedom guy. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I don't think anybody wants anyone telling them what to do. But I think if there's more education around, food is medicine, and just understanding that, look, if you want to, go and drink a bottle of whiskey, every night, knock yourself out. But there's going to be a price to pay for that in the way of your health. And so I think the preventative aspect is something that we're going to start seeing expand. And I'll give you kind of an epiphany that I had just going through employee benefits booklets. So I'm looking at employee benefits, guides and booklets, and I've seen thousands of them over the course. It feels like thousands, maybe hundreds, but I've seen a lot of them, right? And they all look the same. And I thought to myself, and it's got the same old bullshit, like these graphics of question marks, and if it's a construction company, a hammer. Why not just make a recommendation to an employer? You know what? Why don't you make an investment and spend a couple of bucks and have a professional photographer come out and take pictures of your team in action, and have your employee benefits guide have pictures of your team in action? Because at the end of the day, it's not about life insurance is so abstract. Health insurance is so abstract. The disability policy is so abstract, and it's cold, and it's just kind of, there's no connection there. But now, if I open up my employee benefits guide and I see, my buddy, I see, there's Mike. He had a bad hair day. What's up? So, I think just a simple suggestion like that has nothing to do with health insurance, just a thought I think that's worthy of consideration, can change a whole dynamic. And really, we're talking about culture, right? So what do you think of that? I know it's a far out concept, but that's something that I've been thinking about lately, and it is actually a recommendation that I'm going to start making. Like, think about hiring a photographer and come out and humanize benefits, make people feel proud of where they work.
I think it's a great idea, Ray. I mean, I was sitting on a stage at a conference 4 or 5 years ago as part of a panel, and had an aha where I'm like, why don't we call them open enrollment meetings? I mean, that's the least engaging topic that you can have. Why don't we call them benefit education? Because that's ultimately what we're trying to do.